Wound, Part 7, pages 86 through 101. The Watchers complain a lot about being bored and don't do anything about it unless they're partying. The Watchers explore the castle and try to have a good time on a monthly food credit of $4,000 and $400 cash. Their credits are good in any restaurant in France and the cash at any store. The food credits are not good on alcohol. The Watchers contribute a lot of reviews of eateries and activities like sports and arcades over the internet. The internet from French translates to breeze weave, and breeze weaving is the act of using the internet. Most people have no excuse not to partake in delicious French and ethnic food from outside of France. Really, no one has an excuse to not learn how to cook well with $4,000 food credits a year, $48,000 food credits a year, in the form of 2,400 torare. The Watchers are often artists. Some are pursuing careers in music. To be honest, most of these unemployed musicians are horrible. They know nothing about weaving a beat and a poem together. They don't have the money to hire professionals. They treat women poorly. They act like they think they're cool, and a lot have been to jail from a day to a couple years because they disrupt the peace. Their clothing customary ranges from literal court gestures in the opposite gender to ancient Greeks and naked, covered in tattoos, which is all legal, though restaurants are allowed to have a dress code. The monks with their long brown fleece robes and flat-billed gray caps aren't allowed in the best restaurants dressed like this, which is where everyone tries to eat because 50,000 Marseillers can afford it even on only the stipend. But even the monks must dress in normal 13th century clothing in order to enjoy a chez Monique, for instance, in that 13th century attire is the same in our lifetime, or timeline. That 13th century attire is the same in our timeline. The monks are really good at rapping. They're the best rappers in the kingdom. Imagine the fastest rappers on earth doing call and response rap in French to a quick harpsichord, lute, and wooden flute. Rhyming is how Socratic monks spread their message. You take 5 guys and gals and put them on an 18-foot long half circle with microphones rapping 3 pieces at breakneck speed for 15 minutes surrounded by 5,000 people sitting on the floor, followed by 60 minutes of the same pieces slowed 4 times to normal talking speed, and you're in awe about how the dictate of Socrates hasn't grown in 3 centuries. It's behooving, however, there is a cause. The service unwaveringly begins at 6 in the morning. 5,000 Marseillais adherents make the time well religiously. 50,000 are given the Book of Everything Useful, which may as well be a religious text, has no connections to Socrates. It's more of a science text. The book is a hardcover, over 2,000-page tome measuring 17 inches by 22 inches. It contains the abridged scientific knowledge of humanity up to 1200 CE. A new edition is released every 10 years with companion texts every year. The book is often displayed open like a Bible on a raised angled-down ballast made of wrought iron. The book is black as is the ballast, and open to a favorite page next to a tall white candle on either side, which many keep lit from sundown until sunup. The yearly companion is displayed crooked vertical with a slight angle back with book closed. Some read the book from text, but most read the book from the breeze weave. The book is a collection of every mathematical formula in every field of math and science, followed by a brief description in 2 columns and 4 rows giving out 8 formulae per page. It also has recipes for every medical problem with naturopathy. Everyone Pythagoras to Achilles. Everyone from Pythagoras to Alcubierre's findings, though different quantum physicists than Alcubierre. The later equations get the negative energy requirement for a warp drive down from an elephant to the size of a BB. There is an equation relating to time travel to faster than light. Equations describe the contents of the Voynich manuscript and the Antikythera mechanism. The most popular equations are those describing torque and torsion. In a clockpunk society, that isn't surprising, though the biology equations and the equations describing dopamine in relation to adrenaline, cortisol, and serotonin in neurolepsis bipolar and neurolepsis schizophrenia are beautiful psychiatric formulae. There's a naturopathic cure listed for HIV, which spread from African exploration. There's talk of bringing the Socrates nucleus up to date with a 10 a.m. sermon, but the vast majority rip the notion as lazy, and science isn't for the lazy. Another drawback is that the monks are kind of rude. Unless you're cheering every Friday or checking out a book up yours, they're quite vulgar. It's not enough that you're a rationalist dogma, you have to be crass to everyone who disagrees with your methodology. The king himself held a symposium for the Socratic monks, and because it was suggested they lower their hoods for their sermon, and after a huddle of all 35 of them, mooned the king of illustrious friends. The monks are the go-to guys for the day-by-day latest in science and mathematics. They're respectful towards everyone and are polite as can be, but most of the time, but if you question the idiosyncratic minutiae of their screed, these people are the most hypocritical pieces of work ever to occupy your day. They do allow critiques in their library, probable because the government monitors the library system and books are like a drug to the monks of Socrates. The followers aren't the most objective when it comes to their own piety, even though it is an underpinning of Socrates to remain objective. But Christians aren't exactly the most loving by far in our chronology. It might be esoteric to point out that Socrates would do well to have less Socratics at the Bramble. Socrates is an atheistic faith. Mostly atheism is cool in the Royal Cooperative, and Socrates really is the only religious beacon for structure and purpose available for atheists in conjunction to be a religion in the first place. They're liberal and accepting of Socratics, but what usually draws people to atheism besides the assertion that God doesn't exist is a religion as a degrading indulgence. The monks' recordings can be downloaded for free. They're award-winning. The one requirement is that you accept. The one requirement in the Lucis is they accept Jesus Christ as your personal Savior to consider yourself a Christian. The one requirement at the base to consider yourself Socrates is that you attend services every week. If you don't, they make an announcement to the flock that you will have to sit in the back of the nucleus with your back to the stage for the service label. A pathogen. That's what they call you if you sin. They call you a pathogen. The condescension doesn't stop there. They'll also roll a die with only ones and twos every time you sign up for a nucleus activity that day. Ones mean no, twos mean yes. Everyone sees the judgment, of course, so everyone shares in the silent derision of the pathogen to the philosopher. The philosopher is pretty thinly veiling the word God, though atheist is a term the monks throw around a lot that means friend, which means Socratics as a whole rather than obnoxious unless you're one of the high and mighty. If you're not one of them, they call you a sophist. The Socratics seem to remember how Socrates dies, though they call it the chalice of life, when it's clearly a death cup. There are obvious reasons why Socrates hasn't grown in 300 years. It hasn't shrunk because the Republic and the Trial of Socrates are held up as a book called the Athenian Volume, with the exclamation, "Every book is our book," which never gets read at nucleus and most Socratics don't even own. The Socratic flock gets a kick out of these terse reflections, so it doesn't grow because the people hate religion, and it doesn't shrink because there are people who love being patronized. With the Mars crew done winding up the payloads and assembling everything, the bounce-back signal from Centauri has to be analyzed, along with anything coming from the trinary star system, giving care to slowing down the conversion to laser through supercooled aluminum. The analysis will take at least a week. There will be a town here soon. Unlike the moon, this town will grow larger because of mining and resource development. Terraformation will be expedited along by a nuclear bomb dropped on the ice caps in order to release oxygen from the ice. The fallout is water and hydrogen. The town has been decided to be named Deep because when the ice caps are force melted, Deep will be under an ocean in a pressure dome. About 30 of the 50 watchers are wandering through the castle in a group. They like to eat together. Thanks to Japan joining the Royal Cooperative, there's now a nice-sized sushi and teriyaki fine dining establishment recently built into the mall. Patience isn't an inherent trait of the watchers, but since they're all been in jail at least twice, they're learning the subtle act of forbearance when visiting the more entertaining sections of the municipalities. The Baroness of this neighborhood is known for being a bit of a hard ass. Time has taught the watchers some respect. There's still a bunch of street toughs. When people don't meet their expectations, the watchers like to tend to cop an attitude about it. They're very well written. People enjoy their reviews. They're very well known to be picky. The pepper wasn't spicy enough, so they tried all 3 hot sauces and each made the meal worse in each bite, which warranted a threat to sue even though 99% of the other reviews of the Breezeweave were glowing. People log in sometimes just to find the watcher's review on the Breezeweave because it's always somebody else's problem. These 30 never accept the blame for anything. There are the other watchers that rarely associate with the blameless group. The blameless, it's everyone else with the problem group, of course, don't get like being called scapegoats. But 20 of the watchers are nothing like them and range from nice to incredibly nice, so it's important to separate the scapegoats from the inspired. The inspired are polite and keep to themselves. They get out a lot too and tip big when they can. The scapegoats are rarely pleased and raised a big stink about it. There could be more of a divide. There really have been reservations made for a party of all 50 where 30 had gripes and 20 had compliments. The best French restaurant in the castle is France itself. The best French restaurant in the castle in France itself, and it got the best French restaurant in the castle in France itself, and it got 30 scathing reviews from all 30 of the scapegoats and 20 rousing compliments, and an obnoxious to polite split. Scapegoats and inspired don't have much in common other than the fact that they're all somehow friends, probably because the stark differences accentuate their personalities. Today the group is all scapegoats, and if the scapegoats like something, they simply won't write about it. The scapegoats do get return fire for being pathetic. That doesn't mean their snobbiness doesn't have value. The last place and location before this new 13th century sushi joint, Boto's, named after famed chef owner Boto Hamagumi, got shut down because people agreed with them that Oscar's German grill in Delhi had poor qualities from being too rich to undercooked meat. The scapegoats are well respected enough to dress like Dante Alighieri and not be snubbed. The thing that binds the scapegoats is Socrates, where the inspirers range from Socrates, Brahera, sophist, otherwise known as atheist, or anti-religion, Shinto, Buddhist, Hindu, and Jewish. 13 are sophists, and there's one of everyone else. And Socrates are technically atheists, but the term for anyone not religious, even if they believe in God, is sophist. One of the weirdest things for a historian to hear in the year 1200 is classical music. That's because the classical period didn't begin until the 16th century and didn't reach popularity until the time of Vivaldi and Bach in the 17th century. The fact of the matter is that classical saw a start in this tangent timeline in the 7th and 8th centuries, long before Charlemagne was the Bernie Sanders who won after the 6th through 7th century Greco-Egyptian Renaissance, ushered in a more established and often fast-paced handheld stringed instrument style, like we saw revolutions in harpsichord and piano. Today in Europe, the harpsichord is over the piano in importance and is most often played more rocking today as a suitable answer to heavy rock in 2017. In our timeline, the harpsichord is relinquished in most people's minds to classical music, when in theirs the harpsichord is more beholden to a style like rock and roll. In their timeline, the classical in the style of Bach, Beethoven, and Mozart corollaries 900 years before they exist in our world, was driven by the harp and lyre over the harpsichord and piano. Their version of rock and roll is spring and gear, or sometimes just spring. The particular style today is hard rock, like they call it fight spring music. There's very light harp, lyre, and lute music playing at Boto's so as not to disturb the waterfalls against the three stringists playing the agial in answer to classical music. Agial is classical in this world. The birthplace of classical was Germany and Austria, or well, the popularization of it anyway. Agial was born in the Mediterranean. This was a time of fast-paced harp music to more medium-paced, with a lot of complex fingering designed to get people dancing on both accounts and not always slow-paced. The music at Boto's is more new wave than Agial. For some reason, this music got the style name gustatorial taste, which is redundant and is labeled gusta because it is often played in a relaxing setting with food. Boto's is not surprisingly playing gusta as the game walks in to the sushi restaurant. Sushi is often plated with ceviche and teriyaki, unlike in our world. The noodles are almost always served with a basil, tomato, or cheese sauce. The Japanese and European styles have blended over 100 years. Altogether, it's called sushi. It's just different. The aperitif is often a small minestrone soup with a miso soup base. A fried piece of calamari is on the side with a wasabi basil dipping sauce. The soup has one smoked oyster in it. Another side is a seaweed radicchio salad with sesame seeds and soy sauce drizzle. No matter how much sushi you order, there's still a small ceviche and teriyaki pasta. A larger ceviche and teriyaki can be ordered as a main course with many selections of choices to be paired with sushi or as a standalone. The Marseille Castle is itself a 5-mile-high clock tower in the 13th century French style. Boto's has worked out to have parts of the internal working exposed and recover with a glass against a black basalt wall paneling with very low lighting except for flourishes under the tables and the bar in red lighting. It's a gorgeous restaurant, more beautiful than Oscar's. The scapegoats are walking in.